Camera number 401 is the Ilford Sportsmaster, a rather cheap looking and very basic camera from the 1960s. Literally point and shoot. The camera does everything. It chooses the aperture and the shutter speed, and all we have to do is select our film speed. So let's just look at the camera. It features a 45mm lens, the Dignar 2.8 45mm lens, and then going through the controls here in the front, we set it to auto, and the camera will choose, as I say, both the aperture and the shutter speed. The shutter speed seems to be linked to the selection of the film speed, and the film speed is this little collar here. Has a lock button just here, and you have to press that in, and then you can rotate the top dial and select the film speed. And in selecting the film speed, you are actually selecting the shutter speed as well. So if I've understood the manual correctly, ISO 200, which is the maximum, you get 1/500th of a second, and then the light meter, depending on the light conditions, will select the appropriate aperture. So the shutter speeds, if you like, effectively go down with the film speeds from 1/500th of a second, 1/250th of a second, 1/125th of a second, 1/60th of a second, and then ASA or ISO 10, we get 1/30th of a second. And as I say, the light meter will then select the appropriate the aperture, I beg your pardon. So the camera is set to auto under normal conditions here, but if we're using flash, we can take it off the auto setting, and then you get 1/30th of a second shutter speed. And the idea is that depending on the flash power, you have to do a little calculation and then arrive at the appropriate aperture. So I suppose, although the camera is fully automatic, you do have the one manual shutter speed. So I suppose if you had a handheld light meter, conditions would have to be perhaps maybe dark or not so bright, and you could then do a calculation of 1/30th of a second and choose your aperture. So there is a little bit of flexibility, but not a huge amount of flexibility there. So let's just put it back on auto. And then this is perhaps the little unique feature. Not sure it is well implemented, but I'm not sure I like it, put it that way. No focus. You have to select from a series of 4 buttons the focus. So the first one here is portrait, and that's set to 5 feet. We then have an individual person on 8 feet. We have a group icon here with 13 feet, and then infinity at the top. So the idea is that you have to try and work out roughly or approximately the distance, and then you use that button to actually take the image. So there's no shutter button. These are the shutter buttons dependent on the focus. And indeed, when you look, I think if you select, I forget which one you select now, you can actually see the lens rotate. I can't show that very well, but that's the idea. So there's the film advance, and as I say, our shutter button. Viewfinder is quite bright. I must say there's quite a bit of debris in the window, unfortunately, of my particular version. And if you had a fully working version, when you look through the viewfinder, there is a little I'm not quite sure what you call it here. There's a little indicator, a protrusion in the window, and if the light conditions are deemed correct, it will glow a bright green. But then if it isn't, it will signal a red signal, indicating that it's not too bright, but it won't stop you from taking the image. And what may be a good feature is that it actually shows you the aperture. Again, unfortunately in my version it doesn't work, but according to the manual it will tell you the aperture that is being selected. So that's useful. So you do get some sort of feedback, not totally in the dark as to what the camera does. But it was really designed to be literally point and shoot, giving photography access to a lot more people than perhaps would feel a need to go to photography or would like to go to photography, perhaps being put off by all the complicated apertures and shutters, etc. We have a cold shoe, we have a film memo, and then we have our film counter that counts down. So we have to select, let's say 25 or 26 exposures or 36, and then it will count down. To put the film in the camera, we have to select or press the little release, and then that takes us into our film chamber where we can load our film. A bit of history in the lid here. Always use Ilford 35mm films, Ilfochrome for colour. So a little bit of advertising there. On the base we have our tripod mount and the little lever, or button rather, that disengages the film advance and allows us to rewind our film, which we do so by lifting the film memo and then just winding it in. So there we go, there's a brief overview of the camera. As I say, very basic, but a little intriguing. I was intrigued to see how these would perform. Well, let's have a look at some images, shall we? So this has been camera number 401, the Ilford Sportsmaster.